Welcome to Covered Under Law. This is your legal light and help law in these trying times. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Ayanini. Now this afternoon, as you know, the Ministry of Education, as in the government, and specifically acting through the Ghana Education Service, is doing everything to assure safety of students who are back in school. A few schools reportedly record low attendances. What further assurance do parents and guardians require as the law compels both authorities and students to observe enhanced COVID-19 protocols or suffer sanctions? There's a question you have been asking. Might someone with genuine reason to stay home be allowed to study at home and simply show up in school for the examination? These and a couple more of your questions we are treating on Covered Under Law this afternoon. Back to school by law. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Covered Under Law, your legal light and help law in these trying times. My guests today to treat the subject of back to school by law are Cassandra Chum Ampofo. She is head public relations unit of the Ghana Education Service. Cassandra, thank you so very much for joining us.
Many thanks for having me, Samson.
Great. And here in the studio is Iris Agri-Oliens, and she is managing associate, Bayo and Co. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. So here we are set to assist you, to give you, as it were, through the Ghana Education Service, the assurance that you require to deal with your fears about letting your child or ward, if you're a guardian, to go to school. In the course of the week, it was reported that a few schools were recording low attendances. It is obvious there are people who still have fears about what is going on, even though this appears to be the new normal, the life we ought to live, because COVID-19 cannot put our lives on hold forever. So why the present situation? Now, last week, we had the police, head of 8 Public Affairs Directorate, Sheila Abeye Bachman, who is also a lawyer, join us to deal with the subject of the compulsory or mandatory wearing of masks. And also we had a senior lawyer, Ahmed Musa, also join us to discuss that subject. I've had questions from you asking, including whether if you have to do exercise, say run around your place, jog or walk, you are still required to wear the mask. The answer is yes. The law says once you move out of your premises from your home, you have to wear the mask. If you don't want to wear it, stay in your house and perhaps do the exercise right in there. Okay, so now let's get to what we have to do today. And let's begin with Cassandra Chum Ampofo. So bring us up to speed again, what the Ghana Education Service has done so far as regards the resumption of school for the targeted group of students.
All right, Samson. After the president announced that we go back to school, the Ghana Education Service has had an aggressive stakeholder consultations with all the key people, our regional directors, our teacher unions, CSOs, and everybody that matters. We've had series of discussions with them, And then we concluded on what to put in place in the schools to ensure that our students and our teachers are safe on campus. We've also had close coordination with the national reopening team headed by the senior minister. In fact, since school reopened for the senior high schools, we have ensured or we have sent all PPEs to the schools. We've sent the Veronica buckets, the sanitizers, the soaps. We have sent the face masks. In fact, the school classrooms, the dormitories have all been arranged so well with 2 meter apart to ensure that the social distancing that we have been advised to observe has been done properly. And so for us, we have put all our measures in place in the school to ensure that our teachers and non-teaching staff, the students are all safe. Apart from that, we have our counselors also on standby. We have counselors in all the senior high schools. We have counselors at the district education officers who have also been asked to get in touch with the students on campus and also to counsel them, because you may put all these measures in place, but you may still have students who would not be in their right frame of mind to prepare so well and write their final exams. And so that has also been done to ensure that we engage these students. We have to counsel them and advise them to let them know that if they observe these protocols so well, nothing will happen and they will sail through the school peacefully.
Great. So, as you said, all across the country, the confirmation is that all the schools that are supposed to reopen to receive the students at the level of the senior high school have fumigated, have received all their Veronica buckets and whatever is required, include hand sanitizers among others. And the same applies to the junior high schools who just also resumed. What would you then say may be accounting for the reports, a few reports that we have about low attendance?
Yes, we have sent all the PPEs to the senior high schools. Currently, or as I speak with you, we have distribution of the PPEs to our junior high schools. The district directors are picking them up to their various districts and for onward distribution to the JHS schools. Yes, senior high schools, of course, this weekend we have had a massive turnout. I think the early days, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we didn't have, because of course, some parents were not so sure that what we have said was, we're really actually implementing them. And so now that, yes, with the help of the media highlighting what has been done in the schools, now the media reported for all of us to see that in the schools you go, your temperature is checked, you wash your hands, they've seen that the schools have been disinfected. And so reporting all of these, I think the parents are really getting to believe that indeed, we just did not make utterances, but we have really put into action what we said, and the schools are really being made safe for them. And so for this particular weekend, yesterday, in fact, this morning, my reports from all the regions indicated that we've had like 90% enrollment, and we are hoping by next week, of course, 1 week is already gone. They are spending 6 weeks. That's the senior high school. So 1 week is already gone. We're hoping that maybe later this evening, Monday, we'll have the remaining of the students also joining their colleagues and then preparing for their exams. And then the Go Track also preparing for their end of semester exams.
Right. So whilst the executive instrument that commanded the opening of the schools was used what in legal terms we say permissive language, and said that, and I read, universities, other tertiary or training institutions, senior high schools and junior high schools may open and operate to accommodate the following students. Then it lists whatever is there. It however ensures that if you intend to open, then you must be ready to comply with all the protocols. We understand that for state institutions, they will have no option of saying the law is permissive, so I cannot say I am not ready, because the state has provided all they require to resume. Is it the same for private institutions which are not under the control of the state? Do they have the option to say, I'm not too sure, I want to open, and if I don't meet all the requirements, I may be punished according to the law. So if I'm not sure and I don't have the funds, I can decide not to open?
Yes, some private schools have opened, others too, by virtue of the online or virtual learning that they are having, have decided not to open. But that is, it's something that they have discussed with their PTA.
Right.
And so if parents of the schools have agreed that the readiness or the school is not really ready to bring all the students on board, and that we agree with the school management to continue with our online education, they can go ahead. And so if they feel that with the online or virtual learning, they will be prepared enough to write the common WASI or the common junior high school, they can do that as a private school. They can do that. Okay. But for we in the public sector, we believe that, yes, we did some on the Ghana Learning TV, we had the online lessons, but we also believe that getting them to the schools to also prepare them for this last few weeks would also help the student, because we all acknowledge that not all our students also got the opportunity to follow us on the Ghana Learning TV, all right, especially in a remote part of the country. And so we needed to bring them. All right. If the private school thinks that they are okay, the parents have agreed, and they have that mutual understanding, that can be done for them.
Thank you very much. Please hang on there for us. Now, Aris, you have a situation where the government institutions, the state is providing everything they need. But for the private institutions, they may not have, as it were, the funds, because of what COVID has done to a lot of, institutions and businesses. And then for some reason or the other, or some science or medical advice that a head of institution may receive, do they have an option not to conduct themselves the way the government institutions are doing?
Well, as you said earlier, the language of the law is permissive. At least I know for a school like Ashesi University, and this is just for the university, right, that they didn't reopen to allow students to come in. They all wrote their exams, they are done, they've gone. So
Legon had a mixture.
Had a bit of a mixture, because some had started earlier, some have gone in. So the question is, the language of the law is permissive. So if you are an institution, I think that you can be permitted well within your means, because as we know, with this virus, it's new. We are learning new things every day. 1 week, WHO comes up with one protocol, the next time they come up with another protocol. So we have to be careful and then allow room for maneuvering to ensure that students, teachers, and allied staff are safe. Right. Yes.
Now, if you make a decision that you are a private institution, or even you are a state institution, and that you are able to reopen, what happens to you if you reopen and yet you have not followed what the law requires of you? What does the law require of them? And if they don't follow it, what are the consequences?
Okay. So by the EI, it's clearly stated what you're supposed to do when you reopen. You're supposed to fumigate. It says here that you're supposed to disinfect. I'm reading from section 3. Ministry of Education and heads of public and private institutions shall ensure, prior to the return of the specified students, fumigate and disinfect their respective institutions.
Okay.
Then, upon return of the students here to their educational institutions, class sizes no more than half class size of the final year students in universities.
Right.
No more than half. Then for senior high schools, no more than 25 persons. Then for junior high school, no more than 30 persons per class.
Okay.
Social distancing, that was your 6 feet or 2 meters among teaching and non-teaching staff, among students, etc. Strict compliance with the hygiene protocols, and the wearing of reusable masks by students, teaching and non-teaching staff.
Right.
So these are the things that you're supposed to do. However, you would realize that because our educational situation is not, in some aspects, is not the best. Sometimes we are overpopulated in classes. So there should be some amount of room for maneuvering, especially when we have junior high schools, senior high schools with class sizes of about 60, 80. So what happens to the classes? We are going to split them in 2 and sometimes 3.
Right.
Now, teaching staff, what happens to the teachers? The contact hours of a teacher who was maybe spending 5 hours in class now would increase to 10 hours in class. What are we doing to ensure that those teachers are well rested and are able to teach accordingly? So these are some of the considerations that
So Cassandra, take note of the question that Iris just asked, and I'll get you to answer that. The question about, you know, teachers needing rest, because there seems to be some explanation to it that there's enough teachers and so there's no cause for worry. But if the institutional head decides that they are ready to open for students to come in and to comply with the various protocols, if they don't comply, I'm reading the portion of the law that says, the EI that says, without prejudice to Section 6 of the Imposition of Restrictions Act 2020, an institution, facility, or establishment that fails to comply with the protocols under this instrument may be closed down for non-compliance, and the relevant sanctions shall be applied. So, if you did not disinfect or fumigate and you decided to allow the students in, you could be closed down.
You could be closed down. You could be closed down, and then the relevant sections, according to the Imposition of Restrictions Act, will be, then that's Section 6.
All right.
It will be applied.
Okay. So,
because you have, in fact, put your students at risk by not doing so. And so I think it is important that the GES would ensure that before the institution opens, they give them a certificate to show that indeed you have actually gone ahead and fumigated, disinfected, and done all the things as has been stated in Section 2.
But is there not enough deterrent so that even without a certificate, I am aware that I could suffer the sanctions which you will let us know, because and the school could also be closed down?
Yes, even without it, you will suffer the sanctions. But to ensure, it is because the GES is the regulator. So you must ensure, you cannot rely on somebody's good behavior. As a regulator, you have to ensure that it has been done. So that is why that argument is coming in. However, even without GES actually giving you some go ahead, or you must, as the head of an institution, ensure that it is done. Because if you don't, there are sanctions.
And tell us again, what are these sanctions that people are looking to? So if you are a head of institution, a headmaster, administrator of an institution, whether state or private, like she just said, there's a Section 6 implication of the law that you are likely to suffer for not complying with the requirement to ensure you disinfect, you do all the other things, you fumigate, and then ensure that you have your Veronica bucket, there's a space for running water, and there is soap for people to wash their hands as regularly as possible. you have the alcohol drops, if you like, you also have the sanitizers, and you are going to ensure this is done as regularly as possible. Once you are not ready for that and you open, it is you yourself that you put in the line of fire. Yes.
So it says under section 6 of, once again, EI 134, for educational and training institutions, and this is what we are talking about today. For educational and training institutions, the Ministry of Education, heads of public and private educational and training institutions shall ensure enforcement and strict adherence to applicable protocols under this instrument.
Right.
So it is the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
And for this, the Ghana Education Service, GES, all heads. So it is imperative that you as a head must do it.
All right.
Okay. Then it goes under 6.4, it says, without prejudice to section 6 of Imposition of Restrictions Act, and I'll read that section. An institution, facility, or establishment that fails to comply with the protocols under this instrument may be closed down for non-compliance and the relevant sections applied. So in addition to being closed down, you will suffer the consequences, as has been said in the Imposition of Restrictions Act. And the relevant section is section 6, which it says, a person who fails to comply with a restriction imposed under the executive instrument issued under subsection 1 and subsection 1 of section 2 commits an offense, and EI 134 is such an instrument.
Right.
And is liable on summary conviction of a fine of not less than 1,000 penalty units and not more than 5,000 penalty units, or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 4 years and not more than 10 years, or to both. So in addition to your institution being shut down completely, you face the risk of paying these hefty fines.
So the minimum you are likely to pay, even after you have suffered a shutdown, is now a penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. So you multiply that by 1,000, and you get 12,000.
Yes.
And the maximum is 60,000. So you could get between 12,000 to 60,000 as your fine that you have to pay from your own pocket. And then, in addition to that, you may actually also get to go to prison for between 4 and 10 years. Oh, that's a lot. Now, Cassandra, there are two issues that Iris raises that I want you to help us to give us the necessary assurance. The question of, are you certifying the schools so that as a parent or as a guardian, I know the school my child or my ward is going has been certified as having followed the enhanced protocols as ordered by the president and through the executive instrument. And beyond that, she asked the next question, whether the ministry is doing the proper job of the monitoring and ensuring the compliance.
Thank you very much, Samson. You know, the good news is that government has fumigated, or through the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service, has fumigated and disinfected all government and private schools. I mean, public and private schools. So here, you have no reason, or there's no issue of this school has not been infected.
There's no excuse.
The district directors have ensured that all the schools in their districts have been disinfected. And Zoom Lion has done just that. So now all schools, I can confidently tell you that with the PPEs, all schools have been given.
Right.
When the president spoke the last time, he mentioned it, that private and public schools will receive all PPEs, and they have received them. Now, the items that are ongoing, the distribution ongoing now for junior high schools, we're going to give to all private and public senior high school. Just, I think last week, a private school called me that her school has not been fumigated and disinfected in Kumasi, Bokum, 3 stars. And I quickly had to get in touch with Zoom Lion. And the following day, it was done.
Okay.
So all private schools have been done. Now, back to the issue of the monitoring. We are all out as I speak to you. I mean, when you come to GES, you may not find all the people probably you are coming to look for. We are all out there in all the regions in this country. And we are there to monitor, to ensure that indeed the items that we have sent there, we have seen, they have reported to us, indeed, in reality, they are being implemented. Now, I was also expressed concern about teachers, whether they are going to have some rest.
Right.
We've also indicated that all our teachers are going back to school. In fact, it is not about Form 3 or final year teachers or Go Track teachers alone. All teachers are going back to school so that the numbers that we have put into smaller sizes for senior high school 25, for junior high school 30, we have other teachers also helping. So they are all going back to school to help so that we wouldn't put stress or burden on the Form 3 teacher alone. So the students are also going to spend only 4 hours in the school, from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. So the 4 hours, you know, for 4 subjects, each subject is 45 minutes. So they have 15 minutes break at the end of every period or every lesson, just for them to stretch. We are not going to ask them to go out for break so that, of course, as usual of students, they will mingle and we are supposed to observe social distance. So we'll have 15 minutes break in the school. That's why we are encouraging that by 9 o'clock, we hope that the child would have taken breakfast probably at home, if it's in the case of the junior high school. Yes, and then 1, you close for your lunch. So you only have probably your water and maybe a fruit or so something just to keep you within the 15 minute break. So that has also been catered for. Right.
And in the school, there are not supposed to be any social gathering, any activity that predisposes the students to the risk of COVID-19, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. No sporting activity, no entertainment, no religious activity, no assembly. Dining hall, they are going there in batches, and after each batch, the tables and chairs will be disinfected with the alcohol hand rub and all of that. So we have all of that put in place in there. And of course, the students, again, when I talk all the time, I always want to let the parents also know that they also have a responsibility of also talking to their wards to be responsible themselves. That whilst we are putting all these measures in place, you go to school and ensure that you wear your mask all the time. You don't dodge, but you wash your hands, you use the sanitizers, and we are also advocating that students stay on campus. They don't have to run away just like the usual time when you have students running away to town. No, that will not be accepted. The school rules, even though we are in COVID time, they've gone back, school rules still apply. So if you break the rules, I mean, the necessary sanctions will be applied.
How often are institution heads or officers supposed to use the thermometer guns to check the students' temperature and so on and so forth? And if it is discovered that a student, is not stable, or there is some cause for concern, potential maybe COVID-19, how prepared, how equipped are the schools across the country to ensure this is done and done well?
Yes, they are supposed to use the thermometer guns on daily basis to check their temperature. In fact, for the day students, every time that they come to the school campus, they will be checked. We have asked the schools to create isolation centers. I mean, so when you go to the schools, even if it's a pure day schools, you have one classroom used as a restroom or an isolation room, We are also in touch with the district health directorates. In fact, we are not doing this in isolation as Ghana Education Service. We are working with the Ghana Health Service as well. And so if we observe or we identify that a student is showing symptoms, we will only in fact, we have trained COVID teams to use the appropriate or the necessary protocols to isolate the students and quickly get in touch with the district health facility. You know what, Samson? We have also mapped all schools to a health facility.
Right.
Now, all our schools in this country have been mapped to a facility, a health facility within the district. So you know that, for example, if it is Kumasi Academy, you know that when you go to Asopari Mampon Health Directorate, you have been, or the tech hospital. So if something should happen, you quickly get in touch with them. The nurses and everybody there would come in and then support. So we are working in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service and then the military and everybody. In fact, on the national reopening team, where the Director General is a member, we have all of these representing, and then so we are going to ensure that the right thing is done to ensure that students are isolated properly if we find any symptoms.
Great. Whilst this clearly sounds like just more than enough assurance to parents and guardians who are still harboring some fears, and for which reason, he says, like a small number of them who have not yet allowed, their children and wards to go to school. From where you sit, is it easy for you to buy into the confidence or the assurance that is being given so that you would allow your child or your ward to go back to school?
You see, Samson, no system is fail-proof.
All right.
No system is fail-proof. There would be some amount of error, especially when you are dealing with students, people who are young, who are generally carefree. People, as a child, you are generally irresponsible. And that is the truth. So there is no fail-proof system. Even with all these protocols in place, we are with secondary school. The assumption is that it is a boarding school.
Right.
But even in boarding schools, there are day students.
That's right.
Even in boarding schools, there are some teachers who are non-resident. Apart from non-resident teachers, we have the spouses of the teachers who do not teach in the school. So the point is that there is definitely going to be some amount of external influence or with regard to the restrictions you've put in place. There are going to be people who keep the grounds of the school. There are going to be the kitchen staff.
So that's why the law says both teaching and non-teaching staff are supposed to comply with the protocols.
Yes, you comply with the protocols, but how fail-proof is it?
Okay.
Because you would realize that indeed you keep the social distancing, you wash your hands, but there is still some amount of error, especially when you have a mask which has been reused. A mask
each student is giving 3.
Each student is
and it is assumed also that most of them would have come with some by themselves.
Yes, but let's go with the 3 that you've been given. You're supposed to wash and iron and at least hang in the sun after every use. How are we ensuring this is done? Even with the disposable mask, people are reusing them after several days. And so there's still some room. Now we talk about students who have come in already with the virus and probably are asymptomatic.
Okay.
What happens to those students? They will still be in the system. When you are in a dormitory and you are sleeping, yes, there's social distancing, but you don't sleep with a mask on.
Okay.
So what happens during that time?
Okay.
So yes,
so because they are not tested, there are asymptomatic students. Who will mingle with their colleagues and may also, as it were,
spread or transmit.
Right.
And it's not just in Ghana.
Right.
there's all over. I know that in South Korea, some schools had to close down. About 31 schools had to close down. I know that
after they reopened, and there was a spike.
There was a spike. In South Africa, this also happened. You know, it was grade 7 and grade 12. That would be like the BEC and WASI students.
Okay.
They had to close down again because some schools had to close in Eastern Cape because there was a spike. So you would clearly see that indeed it is not fail-proof.
All right.
There will be some amount of error. And so you as a parent, the question is, what do you do?
Don't you as a parent have to come to the point of the realization that this is the new normal, so there is no way out?
Yes, you can come to that point, but I believe it is too soon now.
Okay.
For example, when you look at how the trend has been, the WHO protocols have changed. First, a few weeks ago, they said asymptomatics were not spreading. Now it's said that they are spreading.
Right.
So now the question is, what new thing are they coming up with now? This virus is being tested. And it is showing us different things every single time. So what do you do?
So now let's get to this other aspect. Cassandra, can we know a couple of questions which are all about the same issue have asked this: do I have the option as a student or as a parent that my child, my ward, is not in the position to come to school? We will do whatever it takes for them to study and get prepared for the exams. When the time for exams is up, they will simply come to school and write the exams. Is there any sort of allowance for such a situation? I think you have muted your sound. Okay.
Yes, I'm on now. Yes, we have put all the necessary measures or protocols in place. We keep assuring our parents and guardians that the school is safe. But of course, you also cannot force a parent. You will still have the few that would say, regardless of what GES has done, we still want to keep our kids home. Well, if you think that as a parent, you can ensure that your ward will study and will be able to write the WASI and pass, that can be done. But when the student comes to write the exams, that student will be isolated. Because if we have kept the students on campus so well and they are writing their exams, we wouldn't want you that coming in to come and mingle with them. So such students or such a student will be isolated. And when you write at the end of each paper, I'm sure probably your parents or whoever came with you will be waiting for you. And then you will go the following day, you come and write the exam. But for us, we are encouraging all of them to be on campus.
Great.
And then especially the Go track too, they also have to be there. That's the Form 2 Go track to write their end of semester exams.
Okay. So for those who write the end of semester, you've spoken about WASI. For those who do the end of semester, is the same, as it were, situation allowed for them?
For those writing, that's the Form 2 Go track.
Right.
I do not know how the parent will ask the student to stay home throughout the semester. Because if you don't come, what then? I mean, what then would you come and write? Because the students are examined on what they have been taught or what they have taught. What the teachers have taught them. So if you don't come to school, what then are you coming to write? Again, if the parents is also sure that indeed they can stay home, they can allow the students to stay home and do all the things, have a teacher and they can study and come and write. If you come during the end of semester to write the end of semester exams, again, you'll be isolated. But again, largely, we are encouraging all of them to come.
Okay.
Of course, we may have few people who would have underlying health conditions. And when the doctors, clear us or give us the clearance that indeed this student cannot be in the boarding house, when they come, I mean, they will be commuting, but we'll have that enhanced protocol in place where every time when they come, we check their temperatures, we'll ensure that they do all the needful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Smoothly.
I'll take some questions for you shortly. But Iris, legally, they seem, what do you say about what has just been communicated about the sort of allowance for those who for some reason are unable to come to school? Right.
You see that, as we pointed out earlier, the language of Section 2, which gave the institution the permission to open, goes further. You'll see that in Section 2 it says, notwithstanding paragraph 2(1), universities, other tertiary and training institutions, senior high schools and junior high schools may open and operate to accommodate the following students on the specific dates. So it says, final year students in universities or other tertiary or training institutions may return. So now the focus is no longer on the institution. The institution may open.
Okay.
For in this argument, they've opened. Now, what do you as a student, or what can you as a student do? You may attend. It is not compulsory. The language says you may attend.
Okay.
It says final, and B says final year students in high schools may return on June 22nd again. Once again, final year students, you are permitted to attend.
Okay.
Gold track students may return.
Okay.
Once again, language is permissive. Final year students in junior high schools may return. Once again, permissive.
Okay.
Now, the question was, what are you coming to school to write? You are coming to school to write your final exam.
Or your terminal exam.
Or your terminal exam, because there is a syllabus. GES has a clear syllabus. They have a clear teaching plan. If for some reason you as a parent, you have sat down, and I don't think any parent will take such a decision lightly, whether or not my child should attend school. They would look at their situation holistically and decide that for child A or B with this underlying illness, with asthma, with sickle cell, whatever it is, I want to keep that child at home. Then they would have that responsibility to teach the child or to instruct the child just as would have been done in school.
Okay.
And so I think that if a student, if you find yourself in a situation that it's peculiar to you and you don't believe that you should put yourself in that situation where you could have this virus or you could contract this virus and you don't clearly know how it will treat your body.
Or that when you contract it, your risk of dying is high.
Exactly.
Okay.
Your risk of dying is high. Exactly.
Okay. Because there are a class of people that COVID-19 is not merciful to at all. Now, if you join us on Zoom, we can take your questions for Cassandra and also for Iris. I suppose that you have enjoyed the manner in which they've all assisted all of us, parents, guardians, heads of institutions, to allay our fears and to put our minds in a state that we all can resume life in this new normal in a way that is helpful to all of us. So you can join us with your questions and any contributions, actually. So if you have access to our Zoom address, as we have advertised already, you can join us now. We take a very quick break and return. You're welcome back. This is COVID and the Law. This is your legal light and your health law in these trying times. And my guests, Cassandra and Iris, who have been helping us from the Ghana Education Service perspective and from a private legal practitioner's perspective, simply explaining the law and allowing you to understand them well. So, as I understand, the Zoom address or details may not have been advertised here for you. So if you have seen it now, then you may join us with your questions or contributions for Cassandra or for Iris, or for both of them to respond to. In fact, the manner in which Iris points us to the law, I didn't pay attention to it that way. So the Zoom meeting ID is on. We have just about 6-7 minutes, so if you catch us, you can join. The ID and the password, they are all on there. So in the meantime, for the both of you, for Iris and for Cassandra, if you want to make any additional statements, please go ahead.
Well, something, what I would want to say is again to assure our parents that if you are still home, if your ward is still home, we encourage you to send your ward to school, to join their colleagues and prepare for the exams, since we have put all the measures in place to ensure their safety. Yes, so tomorrow the JHS 3 students will also be going to school, and they will be in school for 11 weeks and then have 1 week for their exams. So they would end their academic lessons on September 11th. So they are starting tomorrow, 29th, and then end on September 11th, and then write their BEC between 14th September to 18th September. And we are hoping that they will all go through the school without any case being recorded.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, Iris.
And I also, even though we are encouraging students to go to school, once again, if you're a parent, you have assessed your situation, you believe that your child is in a peculiar situation where you do not think that you should expose that child to the risk, you should take steps. You can start off with engaging with the head of your child's institution. Write formally, ask for, explain why you want your child to absent himself. Don't assume that once you don't attend school, the school would know that you've decided not to attend school. You should at least engage with the head of the institution. If you have anything to back your fears, for example, a doctor's report, etc., you are allowed. Take it all.
Must it only be under that situation, or just my feeling of belief that I'm just not ready to allow my child to go? Is that not allowed? And you said the law says may, may. So why do I have to officialize it?
You see, even though it says may, your feelings should be backed by something. Is there something peculiar about your situation? What makes your situation different?
Let's hear Abigail. Abigail Darko, you're on Zoom. Let's hear you quickly. Hello, Abigail.
Yeah, wanted to find. Hello.
Go ahead.
Wanted to find out from the GST, from the head of PR unit. Yes, she made mention of the fact that they trained a COVID team for each school. Wanted to know if the junior high school will also have such measures in place.
Okay.
If not, then who are responsible for checking of the temperature of the students when we resume tomorrow?
Thank you very much, Abigail. I can see someone else. If you can, okay, your audio is off. Unfortunately, we have just about 2 minutes to go. So, Cassandra, that's a question directly to you.
Yes, we have, but let me acknowledge that we have delayed a bit for the junior high school. Tomorrow, the regional directors are holding this, training this COVID team together with the Ghana Health Service within the various regions and districts. And so the junior high schools, that will be done tomorrow. Okay. And so Abigail, rest assured, you will have your COVID team in your school, and then they will ensure that all the protocols are being observed. The junior high schools, that will be done.
Yes. Okay, let's hear Osman. Hello, Osman. Yes, go ahead with your questioning or contribution quickly.
Okay, so I want to seek a clarification on two things. Okay, one, with regards to the WASI, we are told that we are going to have a local WASI. Now, is it going to follow the same format as the one for the entire West Africa? 2, we want to know whether whilst teaching in the classroom, what is the EI saying specifically with regards to the wearing of the nose mask?
Okay, thank you, Osman. Right. Maybe Iris can start with the last question. What do you do when you're in the classroom? Are you supposed to wear the nose mask?
Yes, you are, because it is also, it's under EI 164,
okay.
And it clearly says, a person shall wear a face mask, face shield, or any other face covering that covers his or her nose and mouth completely when that person is in A, public place, B, leaving or returning to his place or her place of abode.
So the school environment,
it's a public place.
Okay. And remember that the protocols also say, like, people should not gather more than 100, but for the schools, there are specific numbers that have been given.
Yes.
And even the EI says you must comply with the enhanced protocols. Do we have time to take one more? Please go ahead and ask your question. Gentlemen, I'm seeing all of you. One of you should go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Hello.
I want to find out. In most of the secondary schools, especially in most of the secondary schools, it is very clear that access to water is really a big challenge. And when there is water shortage and other things, it's really difficult.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. So, Cassandra, water issues, how is the GES dealing with that?
Yes, so our district directors are in charge. We have asked them to ensure that there is water in the schools all the time. Where they don't have their taps running, they have ways of.
I'd like to say thank you very much. Cassandra Chum Ampafu, Head Public Relations Unit of the Ghana Education Service, for all the assurances and the good job that you are doing on the ground. And for Iris Agri-Oliens, Managing Associate, Bayou & Co.